I never talked about. Pero mírame ahora, shining anyway. God help me when I felt alone, and now my heart beats louder, brighter, ready to claim everything He promised. No more hiding who I am, no more dimming this glow. He turned my scars into stories, and my stories into fuego. I'm crowned by faith, look at me shining bright. He healed my corazón and helped me win this long fight. I rise con faith, with joy in my veins, dancing out the darkness like it never had my name. Crowned by faith, that's who I am. Crowned by faith, this is my comeback dance.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Lyrics. I am Elena Rodriguez, but before we go any further, based on the last 2 live episodes, if you are there, can you hear me? Let's start with that. We'll give people some time. The funny thing is I know some people that are watching from television. And Christina's there. Christina, can you hear me? I want to double check because the last couple times I was talking away and really diving right into things, and everybody's like, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Okay, awesome. So whether you are tuning in on YouTube, we are on Prospera TV Network streaming live on YouTube, or you are right here on my personal page on Facebook. Those are the 2 areas that we're streaming. If you are new to me, my name is Elena Rodriguez. I am the author of Crowned by Faith, the song that you just listened to. I'm actually the producer of the music as well. But Crowned by Faith is a book that was written using my stories, my experiences, simply as an example for you to begin looking at yours through the lens of God's love. And when you can do that, everything can change. So, hey, Miss Tish Ross with No Judgment here. Thank you so much for tuning in. So if you're new to what we're doing here with Behind the Lyrics, through the book Crowned by Faith, there is a whole soundtrack that actually takes you chapter by chapter, song by song on this emotional journey. And we're approaching the middle of the book. Tonight, we are going to be talking about when death and love collide. Okay, my book is all marked up. You can see pen marks all over it. If you have not gotten your book, you can do that at crownedbyfaithcollective.com. As soon as you go there, you'll see a button. It says get the book. Click on that and you'll get the book. Okay. You cannot find this on Amazon. You can't find it at all these outlets. This is simply a personal project that God put me on. So that is where you can find this book. But we are going through chapter by chapter, breaking down bits and pieces of the song and tying them to the chapter, but also giving you a behind the scenes look at where did this come from? What was being thought of when this was all being written? How does this all tie together? But also to allow you a little bit more insight as to really what God was flowing through me at the time, and to allow you opportunity to simply ask questions or voice how you are feeling or share things and similarities that you've gone through in your life. Because the reality of it is, no matter how ugly it gets, no matter how much pain we've all been through, those things can't be compared against each other, but yet we can be a support for each other, because there's no timeline. There's no ending or a finish line as to when that healing is complete. Some takes longer than others, and some will never be complete. And I think if we can allow each other that space to go through it and share what has helped us, what has helped you. We're only helping actually the world heal that way. So if you come across this video, I am convinced that you were meant to see it. If you're like, I have no idea who this is coming across my feed right now, maybe pause and maybe you'll find out why I'm in your face, why I'm showing up in your face. All right. But we're going to get started. Now, the disclaimer here on this, if you have been with me through the beginning, we have gone through chapters 1 through 6. We also jumped to chapter 11 a few weeks back because that chapter was titled Christmas Eve, and we discussed that chapter the night before Christmas Eve. So we've moved around just a bit, but for the most part, we've gone in order. I have given the disclaimer over the past couple weeks that we are going to begin getting into some very heavy topic. There's going to be a theme across these next couple weeks that does get dark. We are going to be talking about death. We are going to be talking about betrayal. We're also going to be talking about forgiveness and healing. But whether you are here to just be nosy, I'm going to say that. Some people might tune in just to see what I got to say. Over the years, I've endured a lot of ugliness and backlash over sharing my story by people that have been very close to me and supposedly loved me. And that's okay. When I embarked on this journey, hey, Jackie Queen, when I embarked on this journey, God actually asked, are you ready? Are you prepared? Because the work that he has for me doesn't mean that everybody's going to like it. So maybe you are going to tune in just to be nosy. There will always be some things that I never share. Some of those experiences I will take to my grave. And I pray to my God, my God, to help me continue to heal through certain shame and things that I carry. All right. But we're going to go deep and it's going to get dark. And if you decide that this is not the tone or the content that you want to sit on, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Like, you will not hurt my feelings if you decide to not show up or if you decide to click off. I'm good. I'm good with it because this will fall for those who it's meant to. And I truly believe that. The other thing, tonight's song, hey, Tina Queen, and I see my sister on here. Now, I will give another little heads up. Tonight's chapter is going to involve me and my sister quite a bit. We're gonna dive into a bit of the experience we went through when our dad passed away. So the song reflects her and I, whether she knows this or not. I did this project in private. I would share little things and I would send little things, but it really wasn't open for discussion. It really wasn't open for group collaboration. This is what God filtered through me, and he allowed me to see what the lessons were through the lens of his love. And tonight's chapter does involve some things that my sister and I went through together. And also, if you guys could go back to the very first start of it, chapter 1, where we covered the song, The Dust Didn't Define Me, when my dad left. And that was the root of it all. This chapter, this moment of when he actually passes away is the beginning of a whole nother round of destruction in my life. And I'm able to say these things because when I look back, my life was full of a lot of pain, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of moments, those anchor moments, those soul tattoos that leave those deep, dark imprints that you carry with you. And the beauty of it all is that God has allowed me to see the power in pain. God has allowed me to see the beauty in pain, not to be afraid from it, not to hide from it, not to wish it would have never happened, but to actually use it, to transform it into something good. And so as I look back on this chapter, this is the start of a whole nother era of my life full of pain, and then what transformed into emotional abuse. So these next couple weeks are going to get heavy, starting with tonight. And the song tonight, guys, like I told you, you could listen to the soundtrack from start to finish, not know me, and feel the chaos, the emotional turmoil, the anger. Like you can actually feel it. And this song is going to kind of come at you. It's going to be loud. You're going to either love the voice or you're going to hate the voice. It's kind of eerie. It's kind of dark, because that's how I was feeling. And what good would it serve if I tried to like butter it up and make it all happy-go-lucky and happy joy? That's not where I was at the time. And part of this project is to allow people to face their own pain, face their own destruction that is happening around them, face their own internal turmoil, maybe even the turmoil that you carry, even the guilt from knowing that your faith is on point, that you know your God is always there, but yet you're still spiraling. Sometimes you tend to doubt yourself. You tend to question, oh my gosh, am I really who I say I am? If I can still allow myself to go to this dark place, because if I truly believe that, you know, there's a purpose for everything, and God turns everything into good, you know, for me, then how can I be feeling this way? There is so much turmoil that can come into your life. And I'm just here to say that that is okay. And if I can speak about this, and if I can bring my darkness that I lived through into the light and no longer be afraid of it, but be that example, then maybe, just maybe, that will help one of you out there that may be going through it yourself right now. All right. So that is a big disclaimer. That is a lot of intro. Tina says, resonates with me currently with grief and betrayal. Hugs, my dear friend. Hugs. So that's why we do this. You're not alone. And it's not to say, you know, one of the hardest things when somebody goes through something that you can relate to is to actually say, like, I know what you're going through. I've been there. I've done that too. Please don't do that, because every single person's experience is different. Maybe the situations are the same. Grief, betrayal. Okay, we can relate to that, but I don't know what you're going through. You don't truly know what I was going through. And so one of the best things that we can do for each other is just hold space to say, whatever you need, I'm here. But I truly can't imagine what it's like for you, because your whole life has carried different experiences that make your experience now unique to you. So I just want to say, I love you, my dear friend. I am praying for you. I am here for you. So here we go. What I'm going to do is start with the intro of the song right off. I got crazy hair. Don't care. It's getting long. I don't know what it's doing. But anyway, we're going to start with an intro. And like I said, it's this song, there's like no cutting points. She's just out there. The song is called Echoes of Us. And the chapter is When Death and Love Collide. And Echoes of Us actually refers to me and my sister. So when I use the term us, sissy, whether you realized it or not, I'm talking about us. Okay, so we're going to start off with the intro, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Flew across the states, my heart full of dread, to the ticking clock where the time is bled. In a room filled with laughter, scared tears did fall. My sister by my side, we stood up tall.
Okay, so you can kind of hear that it's a different kind of song. It's very cinematic. It's very dramatic, because that's how this whole time in my life felt. I felt like we were in a freaking movie, and you couldn't have scripted it any more chaotic, but also any more beautiful. Okay, so to set the tone before we get into this chapter, the parts of those lyrics where we say flew across the states, my heart full of dread, to the ticking clock where the time is bled. When we got word that our dad was probably on his way out, we were in Indiana, he was in Arizona. We knew he had cancer. We had been there for most of, the quick journey. But when we finally got that call that, girls, you better get here because we don't even think he's going to make it through the day. The chaos that ensued to get us on planes so we flew across the states, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but that's where we're starting. Even though we're going to backtrack for a minute in the chapter, the chaos of all of this is from that moment where we didn't know if we were going to make it. Our lives were in like full speed. I didn't know, where I was dropping my kids off. Like, it was chaos. And so when we say flew across the states, my heart full of dread, to the ticking clock where the time is bled, we didn't know if we were going to make it in time. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. So I just, and then it says, in a room filled with laughter, scared tears did fall. When we were in that room with him, we still managed to laugh. We were scared of what was going to happen. We did have tears through laughter. But with my sister by my side, we stood up tall. And so that's just, I'm setting the tone because this is going to be a very hard chapter for me to get through. I'm already getting that bowling ball lump in my throat. So just letting you know, I might be here a little bit longer than normal. We'll see. I'm just going to let it roll. Gina says, yes, I remember the first time you sent me the sample of the song and knew it immediately. Yes. And let me tell you guys, at the same time, I'm writing some of these at like 3-4 in the morning. And it was just like, this is a dark song. It's not a song that I would like dance to or that I would stop and want to listen to on the radio. It's like a dark song, and it's just what flowed. And so I let it go. I let it come out how it needed to come out. And yeah, it's heavy. All right, so here we go. It's 2010. So we're backtracking. And again, guys, if you have your book, you can follow along. This isn't really a book club. This is me to just bring my lessons forward that God is giving me. But I got to read you bits of the chapter, even though I don't like to be read to. It's 2010. The first and only time my dad ever visits my house. He's in Indiana for a wedding and a family reunion. I can feel sickness in his body before anyone says a word. He thinks he's hiding it from me, the same way I think I'm hiding my plastic marriage behind smiles and small talk. But he sees right through me. We sit at the round table in my living room, the same round table that once lived in our basement when I was little. Back then, it held crayons, coloring books, late night snacks. Now, decades later, it holds Budweiser and truths too sharp to swallow. We mirror each other across the wood, both of us gripping our brown bottles in our right hands. He studies me and says, "You're different." I shrug. Maybe it just feels different because this is your first time here. He shakes his head. No, you're done pretending. And if there's anything that my dad was amazing at, was calling out bullshit. Real, raw, no filter. Sometimes it hurt. Sometimes it dropped your mouth, depending on if he said something in public that you weren't emotionally and socially prepared for. Like, he just said it. He saw it and he said it. And so at that time in my life in 2010, I'm married, I have kids, but we were living plastic. That's what God said. Stop living plastic. And it took me a long time to understand what he meant by that. But when my dad said, you're done pretending, that kind of hit. And it's like, wow, what do you do? What do you do when you can no longer lie to yourself? What do you do when you have to face what you've known for so long, but refused to believe or didn't want to listen to? And I had found myself there. So it took him coming back to Indiana the first time in years. He had never been in my home. He had never been in my environment, for him to look at me and say, you're done pretending. And so from there, I had to figure out the pieces, but also it was reciprocated back. How about you quit pretending that you're not sick? Because I can feel it and I can see it all over you. He couldn't hide that from me either. Hola, Yada Queen. Thanks for tuning in tonight, hon. So let's go into clip 1, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
A restless breeze whispers through the trees, time hanging heavy like a golden memory. I sit in silence where shadows start to play, two halves of a heart in this fragile ballet.
Okay, so now we're going to start digging in. So in the chapter, you can read more about this, but needless to say, I did get divorced to the dad of my 2 sons. We are still great friends today. It was simply one of those things that was like, we're better off as friends. There was no drama. I got like, there's no drama around that. But where we are with that song is, once you realize that you're done living plastic, once you realize like the one thing that you swore would never happen, I would tell myself, divorce is not an option. Divorce is not an option. I did not want to do that to my sons. But at the same time, when you reach a point where we can't like pretend this anymore, we had to stop living plastic. And so that was just the decision that we made. But here's where it's almost like the perfect storm starting to form in my life without me knowing. Okay. When you think of the movie, The Perfect Storm, they go off into the ocean to go, fishing and catch all the fish. And the sun is shining and it looks great. And they're moving along and they have no idea what is ahead. That's where I was. I was simply just going through one step at a time, and the divorce was the one piece, and that was emotional enough. And then here we go. By June, another blow. My dad has cancer, terminal, no treatment, no cure. And we discovered this just months after my divorce was finalized. Like March to June, by the time we realized there was no cure, nothing that they could do for my dad. So I'd lost my husband, and now I'm embarking on losing my dad. In the doctor's office, he wraps a blanket around his head and pretends to be dead. That's the kind of humor that my dad had. He covered himself up and he acted like he was dead. So when the doctors came in, he opened his eyes real big and thought he was going to scare them, and it was supposed to be funny, but dark humor. Like, people would be like, why would you do that? That's just what he did. But we watched the scan together and see that the main tumor hugging an artery, that's the one that disqualified him for a transplant. It's already too much to spread. A young nurse with a blonde ponytail looks at me gently and answers my question. and says, if it were my dad, I'd let him have whatever he wanted. No plan, no second chance, just mercy. And what I mean by that is well, I'll finish this. My dad chooses humor. Even weak, he cracks jokes that carry us through tears. Inside, I feel 8 again. I feel 8 years old again, standing on a gravel road, watching a copper gold Corvette disappear in dust. Only this time, I know he isn't coming back. Ever. This was excruciating. I was trying to be strong for my boys. Their little hearts have already endured so much. The divorce, the changes, the ache of seeing their world split in two. After bedtime, the silence presses too hard. So what do? I pour wine into one of my favorite little glasses. It was my mom's from when they were married. It had a thin gold band at the rim. And my stepdad had coached me into red wine. I hated red wine, but he got me into that. Anyway, one night, my dad calls. His voice, sometimes strong, sometimes frail. He pulls me back to the girl who once needed him so badly. I think of that night years earlier in Arizona. Oh, this is another time. We'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, he tells me, he could tell that I'm in my pity party, that I'm depressed, that I had put my boys to bed. And now I'm like very down deep in my bottle of wine. And the only thing that he could tell me is, be careful. And he was saying, be careful because of the alcoholism, because he was dying of liver cancer, because his liver was shot, because he spent most of his life drinking. So all he could say was, be careful. And all I kept thinking was, geez, Dad, your timing is impeccable. I just wanted to have a pity party and cry in my glass, because that's, as you guys know from last week, I spiraled. That was how I coped. Let's just numb it and deal with it later. All right. So, hey, Maria, good to see you, hon. So as we go into our next clip here.
You let go of your spirit, I fought to hold you tight. Opposite paths of grief in the fading light. You were strong for us both, yet I felt you depart. Your last whispered promise, a bond from the heart.
Okay, I told you the song was loud. Okay, that part right there. Let me find it. Let me find where we at. You let go of your spirit. I fought to hold you tight. Opposite paths of grief in the fading light. I'm talking about me and my sister here. You were strong for us both, yet I felt you depart. Your last whispered promise, a bond from the heart. When I talk about opposite paths of grief, I have to share this story, okay? It was September 28th, 2011. The phone rings. You girls better get to Arizona. Your dad hasn't moved or spoken all day. It won't be long. I dropped my boys at my mom's, still in dirty school uniforms, and race to the airport. We fly by Northwest Airlines. They do right by us, moving my sister and me together. Crumped seats set by the bathroom, but we're together. I mean, there's so many moments in just this moment that are kind of hilarious, because my sister was at the airport scrambling to get us tickets. I'm flying around, dropping my sons and dirty laundry off at my mom's. You know, we get on the flight, and should have just been happy that they could get us on, but the seats weren't side by side. And I like literally have a panic attack in front of everyone on the airplane. And I break down and I'm like shouting at the person and I'm saying like, our dad is dying and I have to sit by my sister. I mean, it was chaos. And they ended up sitting us next to each other, but we were in the very last two seats by the bathroom. So you couldn't even recline back, but at least we were together. So in the air, my sister asks if I've spoken to him. I have. She has too. His sisters, our aunts, hold the phone to his ear and I whisper, Dad. Actually, I got to just tell you this. I can't read this. I have to tell you this because it's hilarious. Because this will just go to show you like how each of us, we're just all individuals. And so we're finally calmed down for a minute and we're in the air. And what do? I need a Bloody Mary or I need a shot of vodka or something. Like I need to calm my nerves or drink a beer. I don't even know. Maybe it's both, but I just know that we're finally in the air. And so there's no longer anything that her and I can do. My sons are where they are. They're safe with my mom. We don't know if he's dead or alive. Like there's nothing we can do. We're in the air. And so then she asks, like, did you get a chance to talk to him? And I said, yes, I did. You know, did you? And she said, yeah. But then she said, like, what did you say? And I said, well, I know that they put, the phone to his ear. And all I said, and those of you that know me will totally get this. I said, Dad, if it's your time, then it's okay. We'll be okay. Don't worry about us. Don't like, if you know that you're ready, just go. So I'm giving him this calm, cool exit. Don't worry about us. Don't worry about a thing. We'll be fine. Because why? I'm good, right? I'm the strong one. I'm always good. Don't worry about me. And I'm never going to cause that conflict. And so I'm just like, hey, if it's your time, I trust that it's what it is and we'll be fine. And I wanted him to know that. And so then I asked my sister, I said, what did you say? She said, I told him, Dad, hold on. We're coming. Hang on. We'll be there. And it just makes me laugh because even in that moment of different phone conversations being held to his ear, he just had to be cracking up at how different her and I are. And we just had a laugh about it because I'm over here saying, it's okay. You can go. We'll be fine. And she's saying, hold on, don't go. We're coming. And that's just that's like the start of the journey between her and I going through this together, even though we're so different in personality. And it's just hilarious. So yeah, Gina says, after I almost had to slap her, yes, I had to calm down on the airplane. So when it talks about that little piece in the song about, opposite paths of grief, her and I had to definitely deal with them differently. We had to deal with this differently because our relationship with him was different. Our experiences are different. So even in families, if you have something in your own family that you don't agree with how someone is dealing with it, or it's different than you, or somebody doesn't agree with you and how you're dealing with it, the best thing we can do is just let people be. Let people be who they are. We have no idea what their experience is, what their memories are, how they cope. Like, we don't know. So just let people be who they are and deal with things that way. And so that was just a super, super funny part that we had. So needless to say, we do get there in time. When we're picked up from the airport, everything is silent. My aunts don't really say anything. We don't know what to say. We're kind of thinking, but nobody wants to ask, like, is he living? Is he dead? Did we make it in time? Do they not know how to tell us? Like, all of these things are like going through, I know my mind. So I know that they're going through my sister's mind. So I just asked, is he alive still? And we end up pulling up to the house, and yes, he was still alive. And when we walked in, even though he had not moved or said anything all day, when we walked in and he heard our voices, he actually opened his eyes and sat up. So that was blessing number one. Like, well, not number one. Number one was that he was alive for us to get there, but the blessings just start unfolding in front of us from the moment that we walked in, and it's amazing. So we're going to hear. Yada says only one family member, because I can slap a few like Gina did. That too, Yada. Yada says only one family member. I can slap a few. Yep, I know. You are my family now, girl. So we'll just slap each other, keep each other in check. But okay, so I'm going to play one more clip, and then we're going to get into the like deeper part of it. Here we go.
His breath was a whisper, tuning into the night. I held his frail hand, it felt so right. A miracle spoken just for us two. On the anniversary, love shining through.
Okay, so we're going to have to break those lyrics apart, okay? And like I said, this song, she's just wailing, like she's just in turmoil. So I know that you guys can feel it, you can hear it, you either love it or you hate it, but it truly captures where I was and how I felt. So you're getting a touch of that. So we'll break these lyrics down, but in just a minute, okay? Because I can't like jump ahead. But when we get there, the first thing that radiated through my mind and through my body was, I just want to hold my dad. I wanted to just hold him like a baby, hold him, like just hold him. And I don't know where that came from, but I just know that I had that message that was relaying to God. God knew that I was having this thought because I never said it out loud. I didn't make a thing of it, but I thought it, I felt it. So I know God knew it. All right. Gina said, yep, he had not moved all day until he heard us. Absolutely. Like that just still is like amazing. So, and that's what this says in the book. When we arrive, they say he hasn't moved all day. All right. So when I finally get to hold him, like the way that it unfolded, I actually got to hold him. I climbed in his hospice bed and put my knee behind his back and put some pillows and just kind of, he wouldn't settle. Like something in him was just so restless. And so we weren't sleeping. We had to try to get some rest. So I was like, just kind of lean back, Dad. And it was in that leaning back that he fell in my arms, and I was like back to the bed that he never woke up. I remember asking my sister, like, he's breathing different. And that's when she told me this is it. He's not going to wake up. I had never been there with anyone that had passed from cancer. So I didn't know. And I don't know if that's even like normal, if that happens regularly, but I didn't know that there was that space in between, that they're not going to wake up, but they're not actually like out gone yet. Okay. So what we're talking about is when I got to cradle my dad as he slipped into that eternal rest on October 1st, 2011, his wedding anniversary with my mom, the exact date he predicted months earlier, my dad takes his final breath. Even after everything that broke between them, his love for her never did. Now, the thing here is when my dad found out that July, when we knew the end of June, and then in that July that there's nothing more that can be done, he called it. He said, I'm going to go on October 1st so that your mom can never forget me. that that was his sense of humor. He said, I'm going to go on October 1st so that your mom can never forget me. And don't you know, we even told him, like when he was in that phase out, we even said, Dad, it was after midnight. It was now October 1st. We were like, you made it. And he like pump fisted, even though he was like not even able to move, talk, do anything, but yet he let us know that I told you, girls, like I told you. So that is a miracle. How he was even able to move, but totally proves that he heard us say, hey, you called it, you made it. It's October 1st. And he gave us a pump. Like we were jolted. Gina and I looked at each other like, holy crap. Like he hasn't moved in almost 20 hours, and like, boom, he made it October 1st. He knew it. So when I talk about in the song, when it was his breath was a whisper turning into the night, that was that whole day of him just barely breathing, as it was all day and then it's going into all night. I held his frail hand. It felt so right. Now, both Gina and I did. She was on one side, I was on the other side. So he literally had the both of us there with him through this whole journey. And then it said, a miracle spoken just for us two on the anniversary, love shining through. That's what that means. By him giving us that little arm pump, that was the miracle that he gave just us. No one else was in that room. No one else would believe it. No one else could experience it, but he gave us that miracle, just her and I. And it was on the anniversary, that love shining through. So, okay, so here it comes. So in that moment, I didn't know it then, but I know it now because God allowed what? God allowed me to see these experiences through the lens of his love. So if you go back to that 8-year-old little girl whose dad left, who has carried this pain her whole life, who didn't understand the divorce, somewhere inside of me too, I felt like, did I cause it? I literally at one time thought, maybe if I'd have been born a boy, maybe if my dad would have had a son, maybe they would still be married. I carried that thought at one point in my life too. But what he was able to show by calling out October 1st, by hanging on until that date, by showing my sister and I that he was present, that his mind was there, he was able to tell me, at least, that I always loved your mom, that I always loved you girls, that I did love our marriage. He just had his struggles. He had his disease, his alcoholism. He didn't have affection. And, you know, there are so many things that we pass down and we filter them down to the next generation. And there are so many times that we make decisions that hurt the people that we love. But in that moment, he was actually saying, I am going to do this because I need you girls to know I loved your mother and you weren't a mistake. And it was his way of saying, please forgive me. And I know that now. I didn't know that then. I didn't know that then. So he held out to say that our unit as a family, no matter how trauma bombed and how broken and how, dark at times, it was built on love in some way, shape, or form. And that was his way of letting me know. And I've never shared this part with my sister, but I believe that, he was letting her know that too, if that's something she was ever seeking or ever wondered. I know I was. That's why God was able to share that with me, that's why that happened the way that it did, because he needed me, that 8-year-old little girl, to understand that I was here because of love, and that it did mean something, even though he left pretty much my whole life. So that's a big piece of it that took how many years to come to the surface. So there's my tears. What is Gina saying here? He said during my time then that the only regret that he ever had in life was that he didn't fight harder for our mother and their marriage. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's where we are on this piece. We were able to be there. One of the pieces that I didn't quite put in here is when he was hanging on, when we were like, Dad, what are you waiting for? It's been like 24 hours, over 24 hours, you're still holding on. Like, what are you waiting for? We had put the phone up for people to say what they needed to say, family, friends, even my mom, like whoever we could think of to call, to put the phone to the ear and allow them to say what they needed to say, even though, he couldn't respond. So we're like, like, what are you waiting for? And that early in those morning hours, I like jump up out of like a half asleep. And I said, Sissy, I said, give me the phone. And I'm like, the boys, his only grandsons. And they were the two that I never put on the phone, mostly because of how little they were. And I didn't think they would understand. And so I didn't want to do that to them. But as I'm sitting there thinking, but these are his only grandsons. So when I had that thought, like, Dad, what are you waiting for? Like it's okay now. Like, what are you waiting for? And then I jumped up and I'm like, give me my phone. And it just so happened with the time difference that my oldest son, their dad had them getting ready for a pal football game. So I was like, are they there? And he's like, yeah, they're right here. Of course, he asked me like, how are things going? And I just said, it's any time now. And I said, but, I want the boys to be able to like, say something. And so, for my oldest, he was only like 8 or 9. And I just said, hey, Grandpa Johnny's hanging on. Why don't you just tell him that you love him and say something? And so you can hear him, hey, Grandpa Johnny, and, I love you. And then my youngest gets on, and he's only like, 5, and you hear him, hey, Grandpa Johnny. He's like shouting, and he's like, I love you. And, I was like, you did such a good job, buddy. Like, put your dad back on the phone. And so as I'm talking to their dad, by the time I hung up, I look over and my sister Gina was like, he's gone. Like, he literally passed the moment that they were able to say goodbye. And if that doesn't tell you that people know what's going on, that people can hear, that their spirit needs what it needs in order to be able to move forward. Like, if I hadn't witnessed it, I don't know if I'd have believed it. But when I was like, what are you waiting for? And then all of a sudden, God let me know, your sons, his only grandsons. And the moment they're like, hey, Grandpa Johnny, it's okay. And that was it. He was gone. And looked amazing, looked beautiful. His color was, he looked so peaceful. Yeah, one of them actually told him to go be with Jesus. Like, it's okay, Grandpa Johnny, go be with Jesus. And so this is a very hard time, like excruciating, because even though I had thought I had healed through things, even though I found myself as a grown woman, I had just gone through the divorce, but I really had no idea how much was still held on from that 8-year-old little girl. And that's why we'll get into that spiral here very soon. Let's listen to one more clip.
Taps played softly as we laid him to rest. Sitting alone in the truck, lost in this quest. All the laughter now faded like smoke in the air. Reaching for solace, but finding justice bad.
Okay. I told you, put your earbuds in. She's shouting. So when it talks about the taps played softly, yes, he was in the military. And because of his military service, it took longer. It took about 10 days. And this is in the book. It took about 10 days to arrange his final honors. 10 days of family gatherings, music, visitors, late night stories. There was in all the while, me and my sister had our moments, but we had other stresses that were happening in our lives that almost didn't allow us to grieve. There were just other things going on that felt like, are you kidding? Like, can't we just sit in our pain a little bit? Can't we just experience the fact that our dad just passed? But when you're the one that handles things, when you're the one that takes care of stuff, when you're the strong one, you don't usually get that opportunity. There's always something for you to handle. There's always something for you to be responsible for. Like, there's always something for you to do. So her and I had our moment, but it was very brief. And because we are who we are, we chose to look at all the beautiful blessings throughout the experience. And let's talk about that for a minute. When you are a person of faith and and I've said this so many times, that God's got your back. You know that there's something good on the other side. It might not feel good while you're going through it. You might not understand it, but you believe, you have that faith to the core of your being that you trust God will turn this into something good. When you have that, it's really hard to not see the blessings and just allow yourself to break for a moment. It's really hard to just let the pain out, because you carry on in that knowing that, no, it'll get better. It'll get better. There's a reason for this too. And we need to be able to do better at letting ourselves break. We need to do better at letting ourselves say, I can't handle all of this right now. We need to be able to be better at saying, I need some help right now. But when you've been so conditioned, when you've been in that survival mode, when you've picked up your own pieces, you don't know how. So her and I, we had our moment, but we really did look at the joy in it. We looked at the blessings in it. We looked at the gift in us being able to be there. We didn't really sit in the sadness of losing our dad. We never talked about the years that we held onto these pains of him not being in our lives. We didn't share the anger that we felt by growing up without him. We didn't do that. We just carried on. And we carried on by pushing that down and then becoming responsible for more and more and more people, all the while just continuing to be pushed down, pushed down, pushed down. And you can only compact things for so long before they're gonna just freaking explode. And that goes for everyone. So disclaimer, if you're packing your shit down, it will explode. And it might take years, but at some point, it is going to not only rise to the surface, but it's going to blow shit up in your world. And that's kind of what happened with me. So at his service, okay, so, we're going along, and all of these days, I'm kind of holding it in, kind of just walking around numb, not really breaking down, but not really feeling much of anything anyway. And at a point through one of the gatherings, his cousin plays amazing guitar, sings mariachi, and music has always been the thing that can touch my spirit. I love music. And so we were in a gathering, everybody there, and he starts playing the guitar, singing these songs in Spanish. And that's when it's like the dam just broke. Like, I am standing there, rock solid, strong, but my body's like physically shaking because the sob and the tears are coming, but yet I'm still trying to hold it together. So I don't know where that part of me comes from. Why I couldn't just break it down, even just bend, fall to my knees, let out the whelp out loud. Like, I don't know why, but I just know, like, my body shook and the tears just came. But even when people tried to touch my shoulder or tap me, I just stiffened up. Like, just don't touch me, don't look at me, don't move me, just really kind of just leave me be. And why? Because my safe space, my space of being comfortable, the space that I grew up with, that I knew my whole life, was to be alone. So it was foreign to me to have people that actually like wanted to reach out and see how I was doing, because it's like, just leave me be, just leave me alone. I'm better by myself. I'm comfortable by myself. And that was a very defining moment for what was going to happen next. Okay. And so as we find out what happens next, I'm going to play this next clip for you real quick.
Came a message from a name long ago, a childhood crush, like a soft glowing halo, a faded memory, sparks in an aching heart, comfort in chaos as love plays its part.
Okay. So you guys remember the high school crush? Who remembers the story up on the hilltop of the big party where the guy asked me out and I said, just please leave me alone, because I was still a hot mess. Remember, I said that was going to come back to haunt me, to bite me in the ass? Well, this is that moment. Okay, this is that moment. So let me catch up where we are. Okay, here we go. So at the service, the soldiers play the taps. The rifle shots jolt us in our seats. The flag folds tight, those corners sharp, and they place the triangle into my stepmom's hands as I stand beside her. Later, I slip into the back seat of my dad's truck, a silver GMC. He loved it. He was proud because his son-in-law here in Indiana helped make the truck at the plant. Old leather, the familiar creak, the steering wheel's grooves molded by his hands. Everything reminds me of him, except he isn't here. Sitting in that truck without him feels unbearable, like stepping into a space, worn smooth by his presence, now hollow where his life once filled it. I stare out the window at a world grieving together while I sit alone in the shell of something that used to carry us both. My phone buzzes. For a flicker, I feel comfort, like heaven is reaching through the veil to say, you're not alone. But it isn't heaven. It's the beginning of hell. Now, what happened is with his military service, everyone, were out there. It was very quick. My dad wanted something quick. He didn't want a big old fuss. There were people that had people there, family that had family, husbands that had wives, partners together. And I was by myself. I had just come off a divorce. I had flown out there, left my kids at home with my mom. I was there by myself. So I just go to the truck and I just sit in the back seat and I stare out the window while I'm watching everybody cry, hug, laugh, talk. You know how services are. Everybody's having conversations. And I just sat in the back seat of the truck by myself, staring at the world moving around me. And then, then my phone, it did buzz. And that's where in the song it says a childhood crush. It was the guy from years earlier, from, being friends back in high school. The guy that, asked me out in my 20s. And I said, I can't do it. I still had a broken heart. All of a sudden, he's messaging, checking on me. And I thought, wow. We were friends on Facebook, had become friends on Facebook not too much before that. So I thought, wow, he's taking time out of what he's doing to message me right now. And looking back, because you can only do that, right? You can only look back. That was the beginning of basically his payback, his plot to pretty much destroy me. And I fell for it because I was in a moment of pain, weakness. I was that 8-year-old little girl that had been left all over again, only this time her dad was gone forever. I had just been divorced. I was alone. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, wow, how special of this person to reach out to me now. How nice of him, how sweet of him. He didn't forget me, like all these good thoughts. Not knowing that sometimes evil is dressed up as something that looks really good. And this is the part that people get uncomfortable that I talk about. They think, how dare you? He wasn't this, he wasn't that. And you know what? You don't know. And that's the one thing that if we're going to talk about emotionally abusive relationships, if we're going to talk about toxicity, you don't know what someone is going through behind closed doors. You don't know when that flip is going to be switched. You don't know what it feels like to tiptoe on eggshells every single day, because if you say something wrong, all hell's going to break loose. Like, you don't know. So until you've been there, and I've said this about other topics, until you've been there, you don't have a right to have an opinion. And as I'm here speaking on this, I'm speaking on this because God gave me a voice and a platform, and he gave me healing. This book isn't just for me. This book isn't just my story. This book is to bring to the surface the things that people are afraid to talk about, the things that people are shameful about, because it needs to be said. And if you're afraid, then let me walk in front of you. I will protect you. I will help you. I will be there to stand guard. I will be there as a support, because we don't have enough of that. We have enough of blame and shame and pointing fingers. And somehow when you're the one that's in that emotionally abusive relationship, it becomes your fault. That's why people don't talk about this, because you're blamed for it. Not only did you get the blame from your partner, you get the blame from the people around that see this partner like he's a walking angel when they don't even know. So I told you these next chapters are going to go deep and they're going to go dark. And I mean that. We're just now tipping into the start of what was the worst years of my life yet to date. Those beginnings, that was just conditioning. God was strengthening. He was preparing me because he knew what was ahead. These next years that follow, I don't wish upon anybody. I know people have had it worse than me. I know I've had it worse than others. It's not a comparison game. It's the point of saying it out loud. And if people want to judge, if people want to point fingers, if people want to gossip, let them. They weren't there. They don't know. So as I answer that text, and we'll get into talking about this in the next week, in the next chapter, but I had to look back and eventually take responsibility for what was to come. I had to see my role in it. But a lot of times you don't understand how you get into relationships like that. That's a question I get all the time. Elena, you were smart. You're strong. Like, you had all this going for you. Like, how did that happen? This is how it happened. He found me at my weakest. He found me at my 8-year-old little girl that was broken and abandoned. He found me when I didn't even have the strength to care if there was emotional abuse and fighting going on. I didn't even have the fight in me. So I just went with it. Like, he knew that. He knew that. Because they know what they're doing. Trust that. Okay. So we're going to go into one more clip here. We're going to right here.
Could I know a moment so bold, tangled with grief as stories unfold? You brought back the warmth, but it burned too bright. This dangerous hello under the moonlight.
Yeah, she's shouting. That's how I felt. I'm not kidding, guys. You're either going to love the song or you're going to hate it. And you might love it, but you might need to turn it down. I don't even know. But I just wanted to scream at the top of my lungs for like hours. And until you've been in that, you don't get it. Like, you can't understand. And so if the only way for me to be able to get that out is just through a song that you just feel her anguish in her anger and her desperation, and I mean, that's what this one did. Okay, because not only was it about me and my sister losing our dad, my heart breaking, it's the anger of knowing what I know now, that moment of weakness allowed me to make choices that were going to destroy so many pieces of my life for so long. And we will be talking about that. How did that happen? What did it look like? How did I identify this very early on? Because I think those are things that need to be discussed too, especially for young women. Especially for young women, what to look for. How did it show up? Like, we will be getting into that. But as we go into through the lens of God's love, and I told you guys I'm running a little over. If you got to go, you got to go. But we're going to go into through the lens of God's love, because now this is what I can see. This is what He allowed me to see. Okay. Through the lens of God's love, I see that grief and love often walk hand in hand. Divorce closing one chapter, while cancer closes another, yet neither ends God's story for me. Through the lens of God's love, I hear my dad's humor and his warning, be careful, not as judgment, but as love reaching across miles. Even in weakness, He's still teaching me strength. Through the lens of God's love, I understand that slipping into His truck isn't loneliness. It's carrying His presence in the quiet. Love doesn't leave when a person does. It lingers in leather seats, in folded flags, and phrases you still hear when you close your eyes. Through the lens of God's love, I recognize the gift God gave me, the miracle of goodbye, one last embrace. Even in the ache of losing my dad, love is louder than loss. And so, as we go into this last clip,
now years have passed and the heart still weeps, echoes of warmth in the memories it keeps. This song unfolds softly, a tale of two parts, grief and love dancing, each holding the heart. Your spirit will guide me through laughter and tears. In the bittersweet chaos, love conquers the fears.
okay, so that's basically, you can have two extremes, and they're still part of love. You can have loss and joy, like it's all part. I was in the back of that truck, my heart was aching for losing my dad, but now I was excited. Now I was excited that somebody saw me, that somebody wanted to pay attention to me, that somebody was asking how I was doing. And little did I know what was ahead. But here we go. The crowned truth. Divorce, death, grief, they test the edges of your faith. Loss strips away illusion and forces us to face what is real. But when love and loss collide, you discover that God's presence is steady even when everything else falls apart. Grief comes in waves, often colliding with other life losses. But even when the pain feels unbearable, God gives us sacred moments, gifts of time, laughter, and presence that remind us love never dies. It simply changes form. Grief will shake you, but God meets you in the breaking and reveals that love is eternal. His love, your loved one's love, and the love you carry forward. So tonight, guys, as we go into our prayer, and then we'll play our video out. Dear God, thank you for walking with us in both laughter and loss. For every reader carrying the weight of grief, breathe comfort into their spirit. Remind them that love doesn't end, it transforms, it lingers, it echoes. Meet them in the quiet where sorrow feels heavy, and show them you are the only one who gathers every tear and turns mourning toward hope. Crown them with peace and give them courage to live fully in honor of the ones they loved and lost. In Jesus' name, amen. So guys, thank you so much for sticking with me tonight. This was a heavy one, and we're going to get even heavier next week as we get into the depth of it. I'm going to close out with this song, and as always, contact me if you want to know more about the book or how you can find the replays of this episode. Thanks for being with me tonight.
A restless breeze whispers through the trees, time hanging heavy like a golden memory. I sit in silence where shadows start to play, two halves of a heart in this fragile ballet. Across the states, my heart full of dread, to the ticking clock where the time is bled. In a room filled with laughter, scared tears did fall. My sister by my side, we stood up tall. You let go of your spirit, I fought to hold you tight. Opposite paths of grief in the fading light. You were strong for us both, yet I felt you depart. Your last whispered promise, a bond from the heart. In the moment of parting, as time stood still, I felt the ache of love that always will. Grieving and holding on, feeling so torn. This dance of our lives, where both joy and pain are born. In the shadows of loss, I felt you by my side. A sacred goodbye where our worlds collided wide. His breath was a whisper, tuning into the night. I held his frail hand, it felt so right. A miracle spoken just for us two. On the anniversary, love shining through. Taps played softly as we laid him to rest, sitting alone in the truck, lost in this quest. All the laughter now faded like smoke in the air, reaching for solace, but finding justice bare. Then came a message from a name long ago, a childhood crush, like a soft glowing halo. A faded memory sparks in an aching heart, comfort in chaos as love plays its part. How could I know a moment so bold, tangled with grief as stories unfold? You brought back the warmth, but it burned too bright. This dangerous hello under the moonlight. In the moment of parting, as time stood still, I felt the ache of love that always will. past, and the heart still weeps. Echoes of warmth in the memories it keeps. This song unfolds softly, a tale of two parts, grief and love dancing, each holding the heart. Your spirit will guide me through laughter and tears. In the bittersweet chaos, love conquers the fear.